We are back with our budget conversations with General Services. Nancy, thank you for being here. I'm going to give you a second to introduce whomever you've brought with you, but before I do that, I want to just give a shout out to Councilman Bill Pridemore, who's here. He is the budget chair for the Metro Council this year. We appreciate him being with us. I'm going to turn this over to Talia. She's going to kick us off, and then she'll turn it back over to you.
Okay.
Hi. The General Services Department oversees government facilities, fleet operations, and radios, amongst other activities.
You added that. And radios.
The current budget from Metro is $23 million, and then in other categories, they have $25 million spread across radio, fleet, and e-bid services. They have 168 budgeted FTEs. Their budget request for FY17 is $1.3 million for building operations support, as well as you will see a reduction for some organizational realignment efforts that Ms. Watermore will discuss with you regarding radio and postal services, I think. So with that, Nancy?
And Nancy, can I just say, you're the first one who's come in with a budget request that has a negative in front of it.
Any kind of negative.
It is a reduction of anything, so please take it away.
Okay. With me today is Diana Atwood. She's sitting here to the right. She's our business manager and handles all of our financial affairs. Also in the audience is Velvet Hunter, who is the assistant director for administration. As Talia mentioned, we have a budget improvement of $1.3 million. Just to give you a little bit of refresher, I'm sure you'll remember all this, but over the last 6 years, we have brought on 23 new facilities. Yeah. Some of those were replacing existing buildings, but in the last 2 years, we've brought on 11. So that is a huge accomplishment, and as we've gone forward in budget requests, there's times that our full requests had not been funded, which we understood, but it's finally caught up with us. Early in January, I had a conversation with Mr. Riebling and Ms. Lomax O'Neill saying that we were going to be about $1 million over budget. Now, we've managed that, and what we've done is the things that you're seeing, that's where we've taken those cuts to get through the year.
Right.
And one of them is window washing, and I'm sure you may look at your windows and think, oh, my windows are dirty. July, we'll be washing windows, but the areas where our customers feel it will be like window washing, landscape, grounds maintenance. Last year, we had a very rainy season, and so weeds, we had a lot of customers calling us about weeds. But I feel an obligation to keep our budget within the budget and not come for supplemental, so I have to challenge our staff and our contractors to do that, and we're going to do that this year. So, but we are asking that we be made whole just to this year's budget, and that includes looking at landscape services, roof, with our lead buildings that have white roofs, we have to keep...
Let's talk about that. You said you brought on 11 new facilities in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. How many of them are lead?
All are LEED certified.
Awesome.
We just recently had a platinum LEED certified.
Great.
Which is the first for general services, and I think it's probably the first fire department in the southeast, facility. Mm-hmm. So all of our buildings are either LEED silver, LEED gold, and now we got a LEED platinum. So,
that's great.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. So this is pretty straightforward, and but our customers do feel an impact when one of the things that we have to do is manage customer expectations. They, all the things that they see in their facility is important to them, and then we have to prioritize that. But it is a challenge, not only in building operations, but in fleet operations too.
Sure.
It's managing those expectations and then looking at what those priorities are. Talia mentioned that we had a transfer of $114,000 from the county clerk's office to general services. That basically is where they were leasing a postage machine, and so that lease has ran out, so we're just transferring that. We will be handling that postage for them. Okay. So it's just a transfer. It's budget neutral when it comes to that. The other thing that Talia mentioned was the transfer of the radio communication.
Right.
One of the things you challenged us with when you came on board was to look at our organization and look at alignment and to see if there were any things, and to build these collaborations and partnerships across departments. So we took that very seriously, and we started looking at our internal operations and working with ITS. One of the things that came from that is that the radio infrastructure, which is our public safety.
The 800
megahertz,
yeah.
which is the public safety system, but it's, with technology where it was in 2000 versus where it is now with wireless and, the IP. So it just made a good business decision to look at moving that to ITS. So Keith Durbin, who and I have been working very closely together to make that happen. So we're working through that transition now, but
Great.
I think it will go smoothly, and I think, for our folks who move there, it will be an advantage to them, and just from a career standpoint and the support that they'll have there versus what they had in general services.
Great.
It's a July 1 transfer?
It is a July 1 transfer. The other thing I wanted to mention, normally we have, when you look at our fleet operations, we're asking for additional money for fuel. And because of fuel prices and where we are, that has not been necessary for a couple of years. And even with increasing our fleet, we have been able to address those increases without asking for additional funding. As we bring on maybe new police precincts in the next few years, then we may have to look at our staff ratio and the number of fleet. But right now, we're good. And so, again, a good job to folks who are managing that and making those kinds of good business decisions.
You want to talk about fleet replacement?
Oh,
probably love to talk
I'd
about
love
it.
to.
Sure. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I
Thanks a lot, Terry.
I know Director Lynch this morning put a plug in for me, and I certainly I appreciate that. Fleet operations, we have over 3,500 pieces of equipment and vehicles. If you looked at everything that was on our replacement criteria today, it would take $85 million to replace everything. Now,
Is that what you're asking for?
No.
Okay, good. Let's just clarify that.
No, we are not asking for that, because we do know there's some things on there even that meets that criteria that we can continue to use and use it efficiently within Metro. We have met with the people at the table and have talked about, if we could come up with a plan for replacement anywhere from $15 million to $22 million a year, and we could have that every year, then we could be on our way to making progress. But what we do in fleet does impact everyone across Metro government, and from Public Works to Parks to Water Services to the Police Department, Fire Department. So those pieces of equipment and vehicles are critical to them doing business.
And Nancy, why don't you take just a second and just be more specific, because I think it's helpful for the viewers at home to know when we're talking about fleet,
Okay.
what does that include?
Okay. We purchase all the vehicles and equipment for Metro. That means ambulances, fire trucks, police cars, snowplows, garbage trucks, motorcycles, anything that Metro uses as part of their business that's got tires and hitting the road. And
Right.
then you have the pavers and those kind of grapple trucks, brush pickup, things that are important to our citizens in this county. And that, so we purchase those, we maintain it, and then we dispose of that. But it is something that's critical to how other departments operate.
And you said you maintain 3,500 pieces of equipment.
That's correct, yes.
Certain equipment obviously has longer lifespan than other equipment. Can you break out on the needs, those, like a fire truck? What's the lifespan of a fire truck typically?
Well, 15 to 20 years.
Okay, that's not I thought it was longer than that.
Yeah.
It'd probably be something we ought to think about doing, is taking stuff that's 10, 15 or years longer and seeing if we would include those in a capital.
Yeah, I think that,
Rather than allowing the 4%, because it's just not enough money to go around.
Right, and we did that a couple years ago, and that worked very well, you know.
But we still are repaying that with 4%.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
You're just saying
thinking,
completely.
yeah, no, I'm thinking,
Completely.
I'm thinking, because I don't think there's enough 4% to go.
There's not.
right, to go around,
Yeah. And-
Although I guess if we funded all the requests and grew the budget by that amount, we'd have a bigger 4% fund. No,
That's true. That would be true.
no, okay, probably not.
That's not the quote.
I looked and saw only nobody acted. But we probably ought to look at that list and,
Yeah.
in the next week or two, probably.
Yeah, we'll have to look
and
at it
see
in
what's
terms
there.
of the heavy equipment versus the light.
Right.
Because you
Right.
have-
Yeah, I mean, like a police car clearly ain't gonna last 10 years, but,
Exactly.
but
Well, and Public Works, I mean, you know, clearly, they've been lobbying very heavily, they don't come until tomorrow, for some upgrades in the snow plows and a lot of that,
So it's-
yeah.
So as
I would
we-
think every department that, especially the bigger users, I mean, you're going to hear this from them, and I think they understand where we are from a
Right.
funding standpoint, and it's really difficult to tell somebody, like an animal control, you know, a truck that's needed versus an ambulance, and
Right.
so, you know, everything's important to that department or that
Sure.
program, so it's really difficult decisions that have to be made, but it is something that needs to be addressed, because otherwise we're going to be, you know, we're going to be so far behind that we can't catch up.
Yeah, we
Right.
don't want
Why don't we, sometime in the next 2 weeks, sit down with finance and let's talk that through a
Okay.
little bit and
Yeah.
see what might make sense. Because
Yeah.
as we sort of put together the capital plan, maybe we can
Right.
put a dent into some of that number. I don't know how much, but
Well, we have our plan waiting to talk to
You already have a plan. She's got it ready.
see if you can see if you can get on the finance
Slow
director.
down. and,
You wouldn't expect anything less, right?
I would be shocked and appalled if you were.
Right. It's
If
not,
you didn't anticipate the question.
exactly. It's really, actually, it's very nice when people come in and anticipate the question and already have the answer.
You said it earlier, but all of your staff, but your fleet operation has done a really difficult job. Stacy has stepped up and done, I think, really yeoman's work at it.
Yeah.
We're, in a thankless sort of position where you never, everybody's truck is more important than
Exactly.
everybody
Right.
else's. And prioritizing and keeping the communication open with the department so that they, just to let them know that he does care about them, even though he can't do every piece of equipment first.
Right.
But
Managing those expectations is a
he's
challenge.
done a
Well, and then
a
getting
really good job
those
of that.
pieces back on the road as quickly as possible
Right.
is great. So we appreciate it.
Okay.
I think we're good. I think we appreciate it. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.